One of the things that has emerged in the recent election in Fiji has been the spotlight on the voting method. And nowhere has it been more pronounced than in the election of a government. At the moment, there is a likely hung parliament emerging unless negotiations between the major parties succeed in having a majority government of 28 persons or more. So that necessitates having a look at the electoral method that is being used in Fiji in electing the members of parliament. And the system that is used is the Dawn system. It's a French word and it is based essentially on the popularity of the parties that are standing for elections. And therein lies today's focus. Whether that method, which has been used in different jurisdictions around the world, can actually be refined in the Fijian context. So I'm going to be having a chat with my friend here, and this is going to be the first episode of our series of discussions, which hopefully have a bit of longevity. Welcome, my friend. How are you?
Hey, not bad, mate. How about you?
Yeah, not too bad. It's been an interesting 48 hours in Fiji, and I think very many people who are political actors in Fiji probably have not slept very well, understandably. So the Dawn system.
Yeah, I'm surely one of them.
Well, that's the thing, and that's one of the reasons why we're listening and benefiting from your wisdom here, because you've got an active interest in Fijian politics. You've been a voter in Fiji. You're aware of what the political parties' standings and histories are, and you are well connected with the people on the ground. In addition to that, you've got legal training and legal knowledge, which actually comes in handy in such discussions. So you could begin by just talking about your thoughts on the Dawn system.
Okay, so thank you for that, Shanil. As we said, yeah, we'll start this series, brainstorm on some ideas, give opportunity to other people to discuss what we have discussed, critique it. We are not political experts, but both of us have passion in Fijian politics. Okay, let's focus on the electoral system that we have now. We do know what we had in the past. I think Fiji has had a constitution since 1970. We started off with the first past the post system, first past the post. Then we went on to have the preferential system. In preferential system, we have had communal seats, we had open seats. Then after the introduction of 2013 constitution, we now have this Dawn system. In Dawn system, we all know there's only one constituent with a set number of seats. When we had the first election in 2014, the electoral process had 50 seats. In the most recent election, we now had 55 seats. And how does, as you explained rightfully, that the Dawn system works on the popularity of the party. It's good. It has worked out well. We have had 2 elections under it. Governments did well. People were happy with the governments. However, when we do a microscopic analysis on what actually happens, what we see is a candidate who decides to choose a non-popular party might end up with high number of votes but miss out on the threshold. So the current threshold set up by the electoral laws in Fiji is 5%. A party needs to have 5% of votes before its members can get elected in the parliament. We have 2 prominent candidates coming from the Unity Party and Fiji Labour Party. Unity Party's leader, Mr. Narumbe, had about 6,000 votes. But they missed out on the parliament because the threshold of the party did not meet the required 5%. The same applies to the leader of Fiji Labour Party, who was actually a former Prime Minister, Mr. Mahendrapal Chowdhury. He got about 5,700 votes, yet he missed out on on a parliamentary seat. When we look at the overall scheme of things, both Mr. Narumbe and Mr. Chowdhury are at number 6 and number 7 in terms of the votes that they have acquired in the electoral process. So in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is, in an election where 470,000 people voted, out of the top 7 candidates who collected close to 200,000 votes, there are two candidates who missed out on getting a seat, on getting a parliamentary seat, because their party did not meet the threshold. Now, what we're saying is that we missed out on two quality candidates, and these are not the only ones. We're just taking them as examples.
Yeah.
Right? We have just missed out on two quality candidates being member of the parliament because the party missed out on the threshold. What I was thinking, and I think both of us discussed this prior to this podcast, is that maybe we could refine the electoral process. We have the voting along party lines. However, when it comes to the selection of the candidates, we should rank them from the highest vote to the lowest vote, and then choose the top 50 or top 55,
Right.
immaterial which party they belong to.
Yep. Shortlisting.
That way, what is happening is we are getting the best candidates, and it is upon them to get into the parliament and negotiate the policies and come to a turn so that they can run for 4-year term with whatever policies they have. And if they need to compromise, they need to compromise. Right?
That's a good point. And I'd like to also point out this something that you just said. And you said that two quality candidates. Now, those two quality candidates between them had a total of 11,700 votes. Now, I think I'd like to just remind or just point out to our listeners that while you're the one who said they were quality candidates, that statement is reinforced by the fact that 11,700 people in Fiji agree with you. That's the reason why they voted for these two people. And perhaps it's actually underscoring the need to have the wishes of the people reflected in the parliament. Now, if the people are going to, if there's going to be a party, a party with an absolute majority, which we have seen in the last two elections before 2022, that party gets quite comfortable, and it makes complete sense because they are in control, they're in an absolute majority. If you have people who have been elected into the parliament, but they do not have the comfort of the party behind them, then there is an expectation, there's an onus on them to justify their presence in the parliament, which means constantly revisiting the constituents, which in this case is the whole of Fiji, listening to the constituents and articulating views that represent the will of the people. So in a way, you are not shackled by the politics of the party. You are liberated in your thinking because you report to only the constituency. You don't report to a party hierarchy. That's just something I thought I'd add on, Sudev.
Have voted along party lines for long.
Yep.
Right? However, at times we have selected some of the best candidates. At times, we have casted a blind eye and selected candidates who had our brand, who was carrying our brand. But remember, we were coming out of colonialism, right? We had identity crisis, and we chose the candidates who could represent us. We are over that now, right?
Yeah.
The Fiji's literacy rate is 97%, right?
Yeah.
We have 3 universities in Fiji, right? Most of the younger generation that is under 35 are graduates, right? So to go along party lines is good, but I think the days of voting just by party lines are over. What we need to see now is the quality of the candidate.
Yeah.
What does that candidate bring us? And we will always have quality candidates going in because they know if they do not perform up to the expectations, they only will last 4 years in the parliament.
And
So I think while we have voted on party lines, and I'm not discouraging others to vote, not to vote on party lines. Yes, we go on party lines, but we vote for the best candidate in the lot. And also it gives us an opportunity that when we are ranking them from 55 to 1 in a descending order, the best candidates in the country will be selected to be member of parliament.
do you feel
Yep.
do you feel that the Fijian electorate is ready for voting for the individual? Do you think we've reached that point?
Mate, it's very simple. If you look at the last election, 22 election, who are the 2 topmost candidates who have received the votes. One is Frank Bainimarama,
Yep.
getting 136,000 votes, and the other one is Sitavini Rambuka, 77,000 votes.
Yeah.
They did not get the votes because they came from the respective parties. They got the votes for the personality
Mm.
because people believed in them.
Yeah.
They also believed in the party, right? But don't forget, both the parties did not have their manifestos till the last 5 days of the election.
Right.
So people didn't know what they were fighting for.
Yeah. And I think that proves the point that the party manifesto may perhaps be on its way out. I wonder if it is actually featured into the voting patterns of the public, whether the manifestos made any difference at all. Because before the manifestos came out, the social media was quite a buzz, and sometimes accurately, on what the parties were standing for. People knew what the parties were standing for without the manifestos being released.
I think the Fijian populace,
Yep.
the Fijian populace is a Liba-led populace, whereby they believe in the leader. If they believe in the leader, they don't care what he is doing.
Mm.
Okay, and we have seen in 1987 after the first military coup, Rambuka was regarded as a strong man,
Yeah.
right? And he attracted the Fijian votes. On the indigent labor side, which were the Indians, we at that time we were called Indo-Fijians. We had two leaders, Mahendrapal Chaudhary and Jairam Reddy. Both were strong leaders, but came from different parties.
Yeah.
And people voted for them, right? Then later on, post 1999, we had the election, and then we had Mahendrapal Chaudhary, who got the most number of votes,
Yeah.
right? But he did fight on bread and butter issues. He did have a manifesto, right? And Rambuka, who also had a manifesto, lost out because he had stayed in power for too long.
Yeah.
So, while manifesto is important, I think more important is whether people believe in the leader.
Right.
And I felt that, so far, that it is more to do with the leader. When the leader says, I will do it for you, they know the populace does not look at the manifesto. But in the recent election, manifesto has been one of the key drivers for certain parts of the electorate to decide whether which party they want to vote.
Okay. So it has been useful.
Now, I think going forward, right, it will be useful because, see, Fiji now has laws. If you do not deliver what you had in your manifesto, you can be, it's a criminal indictable offense.
And I think that's a really good point to carry on to the next discussion the next time on whether being accountable for what you've put in your manifesto is able to be reconciled with the reality if you get into parliament. So if you go into parliament, you don't have the party numbers, but you get elected, how much of that manifesto are you accountable for?
One thing that we need to have for any party to make any promise, the information that's disseminated by the government departments has to be crystal clear, has to be transparent, and has to be given to all political parties. In order to do that, we need to have an independent agency. For example, it could be Office of the Treasurer, right? Or Office of the Financer. Anything whereby you request for data and the data is provided to all the electors in time.
So completely bipartisan agency that looks after the functioning of the government, including service to the people, irrespective of political inclinations and which address the request comes from.
That's right.
And that has to be a central facilitatory role, independent of who is in power and who is asking.
And there's nothing asking out of the blue. As you know, in Australia, we have that. We have the Office of the Budget, which provides all this data, all this type of data when there is elections. Sometimes they are able to provide it on time, sometimes they are not. That's another matter. But I think we need an agency which carries out this function efficiently.
Okay. All right. We'll leave it at that. That brings us nicely to just under the 16-minute mark. Thanks very much, Sudev. We will be back in the next podcast looking at the intricacies of the manifesto in a bit more detail. Thank you for listening.